Hey friend, I'm twin number 3. Thank you very much for checking out this video. Since Halloween, Samhain, All Saints Day, All Souls Day, Day of the Dead is approaching, I thought just for fun I would tell you about the time I saw a ghost. Well, I think it was a ghost. I have some questions about the whole episode, and maybe you'll know the answers. From time to time at Thanksgiving, I've gone to stay at a Benedictine monastery. It's a very quiet place out in the country. They raise sheep. There are about 12 to 15 brothers. It's a good place just to decompress, to unwind. One year I went down on Wednesday, the day before American Thanksgiving. A friend of mine went along with me. We stayed in the men's guest house. This building had 3 floors, and the guest rooms were on the top floor. There were maybe 12 or 14 rooms on either side of the hall. This used to be where the monks lived, and so each room was quite small. If I stood in the middle of the room and reached out my arms, I could just barely touch both walls. Each room had a small bed, a desk, a chair, and an open closet. The bathroom was at one end of the hall. Since I'm a light sleeper, I chose a room that was furthest away from the bathroom. I just didn't want anyone to wake me up in the middle of the night. The doors to each room each had the name of a saint on the door. The room I was staying in was St. Peter's. My friend stayed directly across the hall, and then there was a third guest who stayed at the far end of the hall next to the bathroom. That night I woke up about 3 a.m. I was feeling cold, and I knew that there were some more blankets in the closet. So I got up to get a blanket for the bed, but I heard someone pacing in the hall. He would walk a few steps and stop, walk a few steps and stop. I could hear the footsteps and I could hear the floorboards creaking as well. So I wondered which one of these 2 guys was up in the middle of the night and why he was pacing around, but I was sleepy and I just went back to bed. I had my door closed, so I didn't see who was in the hall. The next day, lots more guests arrived, and one of the guys said to me, "You're staying in the ghost's room." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "There's a monk who's a ghost. He used to live in that room, and whenever anyone stays there, he gets upset and he paces in the hall. He walks, he stops, he walks, he stops." That's exactly what I heard. Now I thought about moving out of the room, but I knew this guy wanted to move into it to make that phenomenon happen. So I didn't see anything gained by changing rooms. That night, Thursday night, I decided to go to the last service. It was at 8 o'clock, but I was running about 5 minutes late. They'd already rung the bell. I was washing my hands in the sink in the bathroom, and when I straightened up and looked in the mirror right in front of my face, I saw the reflection of a monk walk by quickly behind me. I turned around to say hi, and he wasn't there. I realized several things were unusual about this very quickly. In the amount of time it took from when I saw him to when I turned, he could have gone no further than walk into the shower, but no one was in there. Nonetheless, I ran out into the hall and looked, and there was nobody there at all. Nobody on the whole floor. This person had the hood pulled up, so I didn't see his face. It was unusual for the monks to have the cowl or the hood pulled up. Furthermore, they all wore gray or black. This one was wearing brown. So it dawned on me, I just saw this monk, the ghost. The next day I talked to one of the monks, and I told him what I saw. He just nodded and he said, "Yes, all of us have seen him. He's here all the time." And then he told me what had happened. Back in the 1950s there had been a young monk there. He was always late for the services, and he was again this night. The person in charge disciplined him with increasing severity all the time. Nonetheless, he kept being late. Finally, after one very severe discipline, this monk committed suicide. So at that point, 40-some years later, he was still haunting this building. What had happened to him was tragic, and I wondered about things like, why didn't he just run away? The monk I was talking to did not live there back at that time. He couldn't answer questions like that. But then I asked him, so why did he walk into the shower? And the brother thought about it for a few seconds, and then he said, "Oh, I know. That's where the stairs used to be. The building's been remodeled, the stairs have been moved." So yeah, he was late again, and he was rushing over to the chapel. Now that night, I did not hear anyone walking in the hall. And to tell you the truth, I planned to stay one more day. I thought about running out and getting some infrared film and trying to take a picture of this ghost monk. Thinking about it further, though, I decided not to. I thought, this poor guy, he's dead. He had a tragic life, a tragic death. He's still late. He's got problems enough as it is. So I stayed one more night, and nothing unusual happened that night. And I went home thinking, well, I saw a ghost. But in the time since, I'm not so sure. Usually when we say ghost, I think of a spirit, that is, really of the person without the body. Still living, but without the body. Something about this just did not feel that way, though. It seems silly to say this, but what I saw did not seem to be alive. Furthermore, I only saw it as a reflection. If he had still been there in some manifested form and I turned around, I should have seen him with my eyes. I'm wondering if what I saw was not a person at all, but just a pattern trapped in time. You know how if a book is closed for a long time, the ink can bleed through from one page to another, and so you can see the words from another page on a page you're looking at. I hope that made sense. It all had that kind of feel, like something was bleeding through from time. But I don't know, can that even happen? Maybe I would just like to think that could happen, so that it is not some poor, miserable soul still wandering around. Well, if you have any thoughts on that, please share them with me. If you have stories of your own, please share those too. And however you celebrate October 31st, November 1st, November 2nd, I hope it's a very good experience this year. Thanks very much for listening. I'm twin number 3.